Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do share and like this video. Also, don't forget to turn on that notification bell because that will alert you whenever I'm posting a new video. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so we're going to be going into part 2 of the interview between Ronan Farrow and Rebecca from the World Mission Society Church of God. So far, I've just noticed from the first part that I've done is that she's really not using her own thoughts. It's just, phrases and stuff that she's been taught within that congregation, and she's just blurring those out. Knowingly or unknowingly, she's doing it. She's going into a preaching mode, and that's what she's constantly doing. She's not really giving her thoughts when Ronan is asking her questions, her own thoughts, but she's just giving the thoughts that have been programmed within her mind. The only time that she does use her own thoughts and whatnot is when Ronan is asking her questions about her childhood. So we're going to continue this part 2. We're going to see what else she had to say, and yeah. So let's just get right into it, guys, and we'll see what she says this time around.
It was a while ago, so. I love you. I mean, specifically, she didn't speak much directly to me, There's a group, as you saw in the video, the groups take trips there, so it's not a lot of one-on-one time, so.
What does the World Mission Society Church of God mean to you?
The Church of God, it means it's everything. It's an avenue it's a place where I can express my faith towards God, which is important to me. I'm sure that there's people listening to this, they also found that for them, but maybe it's in a different form. But for me, the World Mission Society Church of God is everything. It's the place where I met true God.
Okay guys, so I'm going to stop it there for a second because this goes back, and I believe I said this in part 1 of this series, is that when it comes to the World Mission Society Church of God, most members that are going to the congregation, and it might not just be the World Mission Society Church of God, but it can be any religion, people who are getting themselves involved in these religion and these faiths, is because they're missing something within them, and they want that void to be filled. So when they find that thing that's going to fill that void, then yeah, it's going to feel like you're home, like you found your place of being. That's why I said that there's that saying that if you work the job that you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. That's why that saying exists, because it's the same scenario with getting involved with these congregations. And it might not be a congregation, it might be a group that you found that you feel that you belong into. So this is the same thing with the World Mission Society Church of God, and that's what happens with a lot of members, is they're missing that void. I know I was when I was younger, and that's why I sought for something, and I found the World Mission Society Church of God, and I thought that was my place of belonging. But after further research and whatnot, I found out that all that was just complete nonsense. Again, this is just my opinion on. As I'm looking at the interview, she herself stated that other people find that way to fill that void, but for her, it was the World Mission Society Church of God. That's how she was able to fill that void. But let's continue this. Yeah.
And I can worship the God that created me.
And what's your role in the church?
I attend the church. I do various activities. As you saw, the volunteer services, I definitely volunteer because I find fulfillment in that and satisfaction in giving back to others when we don't ask anything in return. There's no expectation of anything from anyone, but I would say serving, giving of my time.
Have you ever acted as an official spokesperson or an informal spokesperson for the church?
We have had a TV show, and yes, I was on the television show that we had, WMSTV. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, if you've been exposed to that or not. But
I was wondering what
yeah,
the full range
sure.
of...
Yeah, there's various activities, various types of ways you can be involved. I did play also in the orchestra for a time. I no
What do you
longer
play?
the trumpet. So I'm no longer doing that because I'm just find time to do other things. But yeah, there's various activities inside the church that you can participate in, soccer league, different things.
For someone who knows nothing about the World Mission Society Church of God, for someone just coming to this, how would you describe it?
Okay. The World Mission Society Church of God is a place which keeps the commands of God and teaches the Bible and allows people to choose whether they want to follow that or not, and is open to anyone of any age, any nationality, anyone. As you saw also, we're all throughout the world. So anyone who's willing and wants to come to study and wants to question about the Bible, we're a place of comfort, a place of home, a place to worship God as Christ taught in the Bible.
So I'm going to stop it there again. And the reason why is I spoke to this sister months after I had left, and she had left too after my leaving. And I asked her what was her reason for leaving. And she told me, well, the reason I left was because I started to notice things that weren't right. And I said, well, like what? And she said, well, the pastor had a meeting and he told us that we need to be preaching to English people only. We don't have any time to waste, so we should only be preaching to English speaking people so that the gospel can be spread out to the world faster. So yeah, you guys do, invite everybody, and you guys do welcome everybody to a certain extent. But here in the States, where this ex-member was attending, which was the church that I was attending to, she left because they were putting restrictions on who you should be preaching to. It doesn't matter if the end is coming soon or not, as we all very well know that nobody knows the day or hour. So why is the pastor saying, oh, the time is coming, we need to preach to only English-speaking people only? If the end is coming soon, then we should be trying to save anybody, regardless if they speak English or not. So the fact that she's saying that you guys do welcome everybody, yeah, she is right to a certain extent. But sometimes the church puts these restrictions on the members that they need to be preaching to certain kinds of people so that they can complete the gospel work faster. In my eyes, that doesn't seem right. I just wanted to point that out.
And how would you describe the core beliefs of the church?
Well, as we've already discussed, one of the core beliefs is that the saviors in this age are the second coming of Christ and Heavenly Mother. And we also keep the feasts of God according to the Bible, which is also different from mainstream Christianity. Rather than worshiping on Sunday, we actually worship on Sabbath, Saturday, which is taught by Jesus Christ himself. We also keep the Passover once a year according to the Bible. And then there's also other feasts of God as well.
Do you believe the world is going to end soon?
Nobody knows when the world's going to end. Everyone has their own convictions and should live their life in peace with themselves, whether it ends in, we don't know, no one knows when it's going to end, but all that's important to me is that I live my life in accordance with the way that I feel I should. And that's what the Church of God promotes, is salvation and receiving salvation no matter when that's going to happen. It could happen whenever. For individually, it could happen tomorrow. We don't know. I could get in a car accident when I leave this place. No one knows that time frame when this is going to happen.
Okay, so she's saying that they don't know the end time. That nobody knows the day or hour, which is that's exactly what the Bible says. Yet you guys already testified to the end time several times. But I'm not going to get into that. What I want to address in this little section that she commented was the fact that the end can come to anybody at any time. That she herself can get in a car and she can get into a car accident and bam, just like that, that's it for her. But then what's the point of the Passover? Because now you're contradicting what you're teaching people and what you've been taught. By saying that, you're saying that the Passover is pointless because you can get into a car accident and that'll be the end for you. The end can come for anybody individually at any time. But the example that you're giving is that you're getting into a car and that car gets into an accident and then bam, you're gone. So then is the Passover not relevant? Why didn't you mention that to Ronan? That should have been a point that you should have addressed to Ronan. But instead you're saying the end can come to anyone at any time, just like myself if I get into a car accident. So really, which one is it? Do we need to be keeping the Passover? Because according to the teaching of the World Mission Society Church of God, if you keep the Passover, then no harm will come your way. You guys even have a video showing all these destructions about people getting into car accidents, people surviving hurricanes, and people surviving all sorts of things, and yet no scratch was left on them. But here you are saying that the end can come to anybody at any time. So in my point of view is you're saying that by keeping the Passover, you keeping the Passover is pointless because you can still die regardless. Anyways.
Have your beliefs on that changed at all? Was there a point in time when you thought that the end was coming soon or at a specific point in time?
No, I never felt like there's never been a time where I thought, oh, it's going to end now, or I never thought that. And neither was I taught that in the Church of God. We were never taught a day because the Bible teaches that no one knows the day. So how can we go against the Bible?
So going back even further,
yeah.
You talked about growing up on a farm
yes.
in a pretty rural area.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Was it a happy childhood?
I mean, I think, Ronan, every family has its complications. Every family has its disagreements and disputes. I grew up as a normal kid. I had very loving parents, and they raised me up well. And it was, I don't have any regrets about my childhood. And so I guess, I don't know if you want more details about what I would do every day.
Well, was it a religious childhood?
They took us to church. My parents, they took me and my brothers to church. I know for my mom, she grew up Catholic but decided not to follow that as she became an adult, even though her parents continued in Catholicism. And I'm not sure my dad's upbringing, but they decided to bring us up together, just going to the community church. I don't think it really had a denomination. It was just a Christian church that worshiped on Sunday. That was my childhood.
And growing up, what were your relationships with your parents like?
Typical. I mean, I definitely had, fights with my mom and my dad, as any teen or adolescent would have. I'm no different than anyone else out there, Everyone has those difficult moments with their parents, but I would say it was fine. It was a good relationship. They supported me in my, in my school, in my sports, everything I did.
And let me just, sorry. Do you mind if I just ask that question?
No, I
again?
don't mind at all.
Just, what was your relationship with your parents like when you were growing up?
Typical. I would say I wouldn't say my relationship with my parents was any different than anyone else out there. We had our disagreements, we had our arguments, our fights, but my parents supported me as I grew up and, attended my sporting events. They went to my, graduation, as any parents would. they took care of me and they raised me up to be a outstanding adult.
And
Okay, so she's saying that growing up, her whole life, her parents supported her, right? So that's one thing we gotta keep in mind, is that her parents supported her and guided her and built her up to be the woman that she is.
your relationship with your brother, were you close with him?
I have 2 brothers, and yeah, we grew up. I wouldn't say we're like besties or close friends, but we grew up. We were relatively close. I mean, I was the only sister, so sometimes they ganged up on me. But yeah.
I grew up with 7 sisters.
Oh
so
my.
I know how that is in reverse. When you first got involved with the World Mission Society Church of God, how did your parents react?
They were a little shocked to find out that I didn't believe the same way that they did. And it was, from the beginning, I shared my faith with them first from anyone else in my life. And I never once expected them to believe what I believe. I would love to share it with them. That's it. I don't have any expectation further from that. But their reaction was discouraging, to say the least.
Okay, so she's saying that she had no expectation of her parents joining, but I'm sorry, that's a load of crap, because all the members that are attending the World Mission Society Church of God, their goal is to bring as many people as they can, especially your relatives, because they're the ones who are closest to you, so you want them to come to heaven with you. So the fact that you're saying that you had no expectations, I consider that myself, in my opinion, a lie, because if you're preaching to them, obviously you want them to come to the congregation and join you so that they can go to heaven with you. So the fact that you're saying that you had no expectations, I don't buy it.
Very discouraging.
And what was that reaction?
To consider what my actions are actually going to do. They were not supportive of my own choice of faith. They were actually upset and seemed angry because I wasn't going along with what they had raised me to believe. So I can assure you that that was not easy, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this world that has a difference of belief as she gets older and decides for herself as an adult to believe something different. I'm sure there's many similar situations, and maybe someone watching now that also has a disagreement with their parents based on their choice of faith. And that was pretty near the beginning of my attendance to the Church of God.
Your parents and one of your brothers, Bob, said that after you joined the church, you began slipping away from them, that you were sleep deprived, that you were not yourself, that you talked to them less. Why do they say that?
I want you to imagine being locked in a hotel room against your own free will, and your entire family is there and tells you you cannot leave the hotel room until you decide to see a cult counselor. And then you tell me that it's easy to trust your family after they do that to you. This happened to me.
Saying that her family supported her throughout all her years until she was grown, and then all of a sudden, because she joins this church that is a cult, then they aren't supporting her. If somebody in your family notices that something isn't right, then they're gonna go ahead and try to help you the best way that they can. And they noticed that she was in a cult. That's why they took the measures that they did. If they're the right measures, I wouldn't necessarily agree locking her up in a hotel until she agreed to go see a cult counselor. It's definitely not right to hold somebody captive, but I guess they didn't see any other way out for her, which is why they did what they did. But I'm sure if the family knew she had started attending a different church, a church that didn't have cult-like characteristics, I'm sure they would have continued to support her. I don't see why they wouldn't. She herself even said that they supported her whole life up until this one thing that they didn't. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video here, guys, because it's a lot longer, and I'm trying to keep these videos as short as possible. But I will make another part 3, and hopefully that'll be it. As always, guys, make sure that you're enjoying life. Talk to you guys soon.